The gaze is a psychoanalytic theory in media studies that incorporates many elements to analyze the perspective from which subjects are depicted on screen, and what the role of the spectator is within the process. One of the most well-known gazes is the male gaze, which was coined by Laura Mulvey in her essay, Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema. In this video essay, I revisit the key elements of the male gaze from visual pleasure and reimagine them to be more inclusive of other identities and genres of media. Cinematography and film editing is used to designate a perspective. This perspective is the camera's gaze. Point of view editing shows the audience what is happening from the perspective of a character by putting them in their shoes, tracking moving subjects and showing a character looking, then a shot of what they see. Here, we are looking at Lisa, the romantic interest, through the eyes of Jeffries, the male protagonist, as the camera shows a still image to designate him as the subject, and then a tracking shot of Lisa to designate her as the object of desire. While this editing shows that the perspective is coming from a male character who is sexualizing a female character and is therefore the male gaze, the subjectivity and objectivity can just as easily be switched around to designate any character, regardless of gender, as the point of view. You can see in this example from the Hunger Games that the camera shots are from the perspective of Katniss, the protagonist. Since we see her looking, then we see arrows, and Peeta. In this case, the camera follows the direction of her eye movement as she scans for any surrounding dangers, indicating her role as the dominant protagonist. Through this editing, spectators are able to put themselves into Katniss's state of mind and understand her perspective, despite the lack of dialogue. The ideology surrounding the on-screen representation determines its subjectivity. The notions that those who produce media have about identity roles and power dynamics plays a huge factor in how those subjects are represented. Additionally, the way those representations are perceived is heavily influenced by the cultural and personal ideologies that spectators have about those identities. Mulvey writes, "Unchallenged, mainstream film coded the erotic into the language of the dominant patriarchal order. Thus, this element of the gaze might mean a reproduction and reinforcement of popular stereotypes surrounding a certain identity. For example, reserved, mild-mannered girls like Sandy from Grease need to change themselves fundamentally to get the attention of a man.
Tell me about it, stud."
Young, attractive women who marry older men like Meredith from Parent Trap are shallow gold diggers and cruel stepmoms.
It's me or them. Take your pick.
Men who wear dresses or don't fit into the gender binary, like Psycho's Norman Bates and Rocky Horror Picture Show's Dr. Frankenfurter, are violent and predatory. And men who are traditionally and arguably toxically masculine, like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, are very attractive to women because of their masculinity.
As you see, I've got biceps to spare.
Apart from the male gaze being used to reinforce patriarchal norms, there are other dominant sociological ideas that can be enforced through other gazes, particularly the white gaze. Characters like Apu from The Simpsons is a cultural other, a depiction of the stereotypical immigrant who works at a convenience store.
Please come again.
The character Mammy from Gone with the Wind was a reinforcement of the historical Mammy stereotype depicting enslaved black women in the pre-Civil War era as domestic caretakers who were content with their lives of servitude. Despite the inaccuracies of these outdated stereotypes, their popularity as classic works of film and television allows them to continue to reinforce dominant and oppressive social power structures. The way in which people experience media allows them to feel like they are a part of the media's universe and are active participants within it. In regards to films, this is called the cinematic apparatus. The cinematic apparatus is essentially a movie theater type space in which the room is darkened and a moving image is projected onto a large screen in front of a spectator. With all other sensory experiences being minimized through this apparatus, spectators are fully enveloped within the universe that the film is taking place in. In Visual Pleasures, Mulvey argues that the cinematic apparatus is the only way to consume media in order for a spectator to feel as though they are existing within the realm of the media. Other forms of media, such as video games and social media, are able to achieve this feeling of spectator participation in that medium through the user's ability to personalize their profiles and posts on social media. In video games, users have the ability to customize their avatars to reflect their personal image. In an almost literal sense, they can place themselves in the universe of the game. Both of these forms of new media involve a level of interactivity with other users that allows you to see the impact of your actions in real time, thus situating yourself in the imagined reality created by the platform. My revisitation of visual pleasure in narrative cinema challenges the restrictions surrounding the male gaze and invites viewers to ask the following when they consume media. Who is meant to be viewing these representations, and how are they meant to be received? Is this representation necessary to a narrative, or is it there to appease spectators? Is this representation objectifying, empowering, neither, or both? How are my personal biases influencing the way I think about this? Your answers may surprise you.